It is a big idea, a new world order.
Your world is not what it seems. Ansary, Outside the Box.
Reporting the news vital for your survival in the new millennium. I'm Ansary, and this is Outside the Box. We're coming to you live from our studios in Portland, Oregon, May 31st, 2007. A lot of information, a lot of stuff we're going to talk about tonight, along with getting to your phone calls. But I want you to take a moment right now before we get into all of that and reflect on the last week, the last 7 days before we met, since we met last Thursday, and the developments of the world that have happened then before our very eyes. You know, each show I do, since I've been doing this for 2 years, I've been regurgitating to some degree some of the same pieces of information, the same articles, rewritten by different people, released by different news outlets at different times. And it appears to be news. News of the day. They are announcing a DNA database. News of the day. Martial law may be declared in case of a disaster in the United States. These are realities. But yet it's nothing new. It's been like this for some time. Now we're looking at being approximately 6.5 years after 9/11. To date, we have had no real investigation of 9/11, yet the information about what really happened on 9/11 and the number of whistleblowers that are stepping out of the shadows and into the mainstream, those developments and much, much more continue. But why, oh why, do you ask? Has nothing changed? Because there will be change, my friends, when people are starving to death. There is much darkness on this broadcast, I understand. But look at the position for one moment, please, before criticizing at where I am right now. I'm on channel 11. I'm sandwiched between dozens and dozens and dozens of outlets beaming you propaganda, lying to you. A media consolidated world since 1996. We've seen the end of the 777 rule, where now Clear Channel owns communications to some degree, more or less, on AM and FM radio. How is there any diversity? How is there any locality in any of this? In this country, in America, we are so sheltered in this bubble that we have lost our goddamn mind. And we are headed over the cliff until the very end. And I did not start this fire, as Billy Joel says in his song, but I have to deal with it because it's my future. Because I'm 27 and I want to live to see tomorrow. Because I know I'm going to survive. Because I know I'm going to make it over the hill. While at the same time, my government may not. You have to develop, if you want to survive, a mindset to where survival is your only option and surrender is not even possible. Thomas Jefferson said, one of the greatest enemies of the people is the banking establishment that is more powerful than any standing army. And if you can read the weather, and I don't mean the weather or the skies necessarily, but the economic weather, the storm that is not necessarily upon the horizon, but is here today. That is the real blowback of what we have caused, the devastation in Iraq and Afghanistan and elsewhere will result by design in the collapse of this nation. Why did it have to get to this point in our society when the Chinese are coming over here to talk to our leaders about who owns what? About what will be the value of their currency because there is such a major imbalance? This is a shock to so many people. This is nothing new. If you look at just the growth of China alone, they were working with primitive bombing technology, their missile precision technology, was basically to some degree in the Stone Age during the 1980s, until, of course, the introduction of President Bill Clinton. No one died when Clinton lied. And again, so many Americans, Europeans, Asians, Arabs, and African Americans fall into the illusion of a phony left-right paradigm. Bush did none of this alone. This started back in the 90s, the buying up in pieces of our country, the looting of what was America, a free republic, to where now the lines, the divisions between what is a corporation and what is a government is so blurry. The propaganda today promotes them as if they are one. I know this information is dark. I know it is complicated to comprehend because our entire lives we have been lied to. We have been manipulated to some degree and we have been abused. Like a woman married to an alcoholic husband who every day is beaten and is kicked within inches of her life, what would she do? She would have to escape that situation or rise up and stand up for herself or get the help that she needs in a situation like that. To some degree, we are being abused and metaphorically raped by a syndicate which has already taken over America. When you hear the right wing and to some degree, some radical elements of the left wing about people saying what I'm saying, it's not that we hate America or that we don't support the troops. We do support the troops and we do love America. That's why we're doing this. This goes back to the whole Orwellian term of what does it mean to be a patriot? Everything today is Orwellian. Everything today is backwards. And we don't even know how to measure right versus wrong. When many Americans never entered the political conversation until after 9/11. When all of this stuff came up from the underground, it hit us in the head. And for a lot of Americans, the conspiracy theories, the conspiracy myths, as they heard over the years for many people, including those that supported Bush, these theories are now hitting them dramatically like a ton of bricks. And I care about my audience. I care about people that I may perceive to be my enemy, which is a part of the matrix, which is a part of the illusion of separation, of oneness, of infinite possibility. That's why I do this. There is no economic gain in this. And I actually find it to this day to be a physical anomaly, how there are so few people talking about these things anymore. It is not easy to be me, but it is also energizing and rewarding because you have to think about it on this level. It's dark. I understand it. I understand that there isn't an easy solution to so many of these issues facing us every week that don't go away. I mean, come on, my friends. Whatever happened to the stories I read about last year or the year before about a child or a person tased by their own police department? This is another physical manifestation of what we have created on our planet today. Now we must foresee the storm that is already here, how it's manifesting, and of course the storm upon the horizon. It's not about worrying about the future because, as I said last week, this moment is the only thing that is really a full reality. But I want to preserve this moment. I want to grow up. I want to grow old. I want to one day think and dream and maybe manifest a real family in a world, whether a new world order exists or not. Because that is part of the game that is keeping you miserable, keeping you unhealthy, brainwashing you, even if you understand what the New World Order is and its plans for you and your family. This war, my friends, is much larger than political. The spiritual fight, as I've talked about so much, and you can never really get around, is such a big part of it. But remember this. There are thousands and thousands and thousands, endless amounts of people with their websites talking about the law of attraction, talking about manifesting your own reality. And you have different schools of thought into the strange world that we live in that can't be pegged or boxed into one philosophy or denomination or religion. Consciousness truly is the understanding of oneness, that there is no separation. That I think, and I've always have felt, that these different religions, these different faiths, belief systems, or BS if you abbreviate it, we're brought here for some reason. We created these people. They were all the signs of the times. These people in major cultural upheavals, when someone came to provide information that was necessary for them to ascend at that point in time. Whether we're discussing Muhammad, and there's different perspectives on that, Buddha, Jesus Christ, and many other people that have made a tremendous impact on societies around the world, for better or for worse. But in many of these belief systems, you find contradiction after contradiction after contradiction, which is no way or shape in any manner limited to religion. It includes the New Age. In fact, the Illuminati, to some degree, and again, this is just my perspective, uses people with good intentions for their own personal endeavors. Now, I don't have any specific examples of New Age, but what I mean by that is a lot of people are talking about, I just want to be happy. I just want to be happy and let all of this work itself out, as if it was just that easy. I just want to wait. I just want to wait it out and let the Almighty do everything for me. Now, there is some truth to that. Thy will, not mine, be done. There is also illusion. When you begin to expect that someone or something, a political leader, a messiah, a belief system, to take away your responsibility for you so life is more convenient, so you can feel better. This is a wake-up call, my friends, and I don't know how many different ways I can say it. We are raping, literally, other countries around the world to get what we have here on our nation today. Is that what is making you happy? Is that what is distancing us from the brunt of the war? Now that veil, my friends, is thinning and thinning by the day. To really feel the pain that we have inflicted upon the third world. When you understand the tears from a mother as she realizes that her 7-year-old has been gang raped and hacked by U.S. soldiers. These things are facts, but we're shielded. We're shielded from the information, and when it is rarely available to us, including the photographs of what happened, we stop short because we don't want to feel the pain, because we want to focus on how can we just feel good. Now, there was so much truth in that. There was so much truth in that, the illusion and how the Illuminati can't take advantage of a New Age belief system or metaphysical belief system is to convince you that you can't do anything about it, that this is automatically going to change by itself, and you're going to be okay as long as, in a ritualistic form, you say the right thing, you do the right thing, you say the right thing, and perform the right ritual. If we really have faith in ourselves and in this planet, we will see that we don't need a specific belief system, a religion, or even a specific country or leader to help the world move along. If you want to find someone that can help you get through this mess that we're in, the closest way, the closest road to that is your nearest mirror. You may look in that mirror, though, and see things that you don't want to see. You may feel things when you look in that mirror and point the finger back at yourself that you don't want to feel. I know I do. How about you? I have no problem airing my dirty laundry and how I am imperfect on this show because a lot of this is about honesty. It's about honesty about where we are today and where we're headed. Now, your children today are being groomed, harvested to be monsters tomorrow, operating the machines of death that will dominate a third of our military, that is robotic warriors, as we'll get into later on in the broadcast. How can this be a raising of consciousness? This program can cater to a number of schools of thought when it comes into the conversation of what do we do now? On one level, you have fight the New World Order and fight its advancement, the physical manifestation of calling governors, calling your local representatives, doing what you can do for your community to stop the imperialistic death march that will result in the collapse of this nation. That is one approach. In this awakening process, because this is a universe of infinite possibility, therefore, why would there not be an infinite amount of solutions to this hellhole that's being created right now? I mean, stop, before I go into that, cameras in the schoolroom, in the bathroom, on the train, at your work, on your computer is not freedom. That is hell on earth. An Orwellian nightmare that should stay, of course, in a 50s sci-fi film or book. Another approach, other than fighting the New World Order head-on with your faith, is the acceptance of what is happening and the preparation, therefore, and this is more along the lines where I lean, in the middle, somewhat balanced, in between the spiritual and physical solutions, into how do you deal with the crisis once it happens. Because mark my words, the number one word or theme that is going to get us out of the crisis is sharing. Companioned with love. But sharing and communication, these foreign concepts that a lot of us don't even know because of where our society is in its evolutionary path. And I use that word loosely, not literally. There's no Darwinistic propaganda on this program, but using that terminology loosely, our evolution to a more peaceful society where we work beyond this same karmatic cycle that we have been going through apparently over and over and over and over and over again. Understanding that we have to be able to respond with an open hand of love, of companionship, of friendship to people that we may not know, because that's what we need when the crap hits the fan, for others to help us out. It's a cycle, and then it becomes circular, and then this world of cages, of boxes, of fragmented societies and lifestyles begins to dissolve, while at the same time simultaneously respecting diversity and freedom of speech in a way that we did not even think of when we tried to figure out what freedom of speech was a decade ago, or even 300 years ago. What does it really mean to live in a society where we are respecting each other's speech and what they have to say? Is it really just about the U.S. Constitution and legally allowing someone to say what they want to say? First of all, friends, the Constitution does not give you those rights. God, as noted in the Constitution, gives you those rights. The Constitution is merely clarifying that in a legal document, some refer to as a living document. By the way, a viewer sent me the Bill of Rights Handbook. It's my P.O. Box at P.O. Box 12743, Portland, Oregon, 97212. And if you'd like to write to me as well, you can do so at that address. So again, I'm digressing, moving back. That is a second way that you can approach, and that is preparing for the crisis. The third way, and there are more ways that you can respond to this information, the third way is considered by many to be the more spiritual approach, and that is the understanding of the ultimate reality, and that all of this is an illusion. All of it, including the outcome of the development of the New World Order, if you look at this entire universe, even astrology is a part of the matrix because that's a part of the physical realm, the physical world. There is no separation between Earth and Mars and Pluto and the sun. No separation. We're part of the same solar system, but perception tells us it's way up there. And I remember being a little boy, and we all had those feelings of wanting to go and travel up there. Take a rope like Jim Carrey did in Bruce Almighty and bring our girlfriend down a moon. Get up there and find out what's out there. Think about the possibilities. Infinite consciousness. I mean, come on. What are we made out of? Supposedly we've been around for millions of years. Is this all we got, brother? Take a look at what they're doing in Iraq with the latest tools that they are experimenting with to torture human body. It is beyond what Nazi Germany was involved in. And when I read stories about very young women being succumbed to this, it breaks my heart. I do this because I care. I read about families being broken up, and I stop and I pause about all the things that I thought were bad in my life. And I never had to see anyone raped, dragged away in the dark of night. I never had to accept that kind of news. I never have known anyone personally that has to live in that manner. I've never known anyone like that. I'm so detached. You're also detached. We are collectively, most of us, if you're in an industrialized world with access to Google Video in the first place, to how people are feeling around the world, the death that is being created, over 700,000 dead in a war on terror to make up for 3,000 dead on 9/11, which was already, that we've proven, an inside job. This is an insane asylum. This is a concentration camp for the fallen angels. So I speculate, at times. You say 9/11 is important? 3,000 dead, even if the Arabs had committed it. 30,000 children die a day from starvation. And man, when you get a cold slap in the face to what is reality, so many things can come out of you. So when I mention multiple ways to combat this system, I say that to let you know that my approach and what I do in my life is the path that I chose. Perhaps, I don't know, before I even was a fetus. Because some of you have been researching this before I was a fetus. And that makes me feel good. And I want to see more young people get involved in what's happening. I want to see and hear from more people in their 60s, their 70s, that have seen so much. Stay involved in what we are already accomplishing. But we know there are some things that we can't change when it comes to fighting what we're fighting. But you and I can only fight so much because the will of the people collectively will create the world of tomorrow. Will your children become Manchurian candidate monsters that continue the way we have, destroying this planet? The elite don't decide that, my friends. It is you. There is so much happening on the planet right now. Before we get to your phone calls, I want to cover just a snapshot of the things that people aren't even aware of. The sports figures are still important. American Idol, to some people, is still important. To some people, making sure that they get to TiVo Lost is still important. Oh my God, honey, Lost is gone. Oh my God, honey, all of these things. Oh, the TV's not working tonight. It's horrible. Geez, what would we do without all this convenience? Would we lose our minds? The kind of pain you see people experiencing. I lost my iPod today. Oh my God, my Wi-Fi's out. I'd like to see a week, all of us, without our cell phones. No cell phone service for a week. I mean, come on, guys. I know it's gotten to the point where We have been conditioned for so long that everybody must be protected at all times. Your children might be kidnapped. Oh, the rapist, the pedophile, he's just waiting with a hard-on around the corner, gonna take all your children. The Mexicans, they're gonna take them. The Asians, the blacks, you better watch them. It never ends. The sexual predators, MySpace, they're coming to get you. They're on the airplanes. They're everywhere. Could be you, could be me, could be the news journalist talking to Al-Qaeda. You know how they're networking on the web? It never ends. The paranoia becomes a psychosis which ingrains itself almost to a sick diabolical degree within our DNA. To some of you, I've lost my mind. To me, I feel like I'm finally figuring it all out. This stuff just continues. It just keeps continuing and continuing and continuing and continuing, with the puppet doing nothing more than walking through a different door wearing a different sports jacket. And the newscaster sits there and reads this news that I'm about to get into in a monotone voice. Today, Russia is saying that they are preparing to go to war with the United States. There's a new arms race going on, and China is continuing to devalue their dollar by moving things away from the Federal Reserve. But Bush says things are working out quite well and expects us to be at a $46 billion surplus by the year 2012. This is in a bipartisan effort with the Democrats. In the meantime, surveillance cameras are going up around the country. In the meantime, Memorial Day is celebrated as people remember that we are free. And we are free. Yes, we are free because men are going and dying for our freedoms. God damn it. What has happened to this nation? How far down the memory hole have we fallen? Men walked until their feet were bleeding without shoes, fighting the Revolutionary War on our soil from foreign invaders. Do you really think, for those of you that are still with this mentality of imperialistic kamikaze love, brotherly love, that you think is going to end the war on terror? I mean, what kind of infused GMO crack cocaine are we smoking collectively in this nation? It is time for a detox from this juice that we have been hooked on. And the military-industrial complex, the pharmaceutical and the prison-industrial complex is now eating our young. I mean, I don't know what it's going to take other than starvation or a full-on nuclear attack that involves an American city from a real enemy to get us to wake up. And when I mean a real enemy, I'm no longer talking about a false flag operation here. I'm talking about a real enemy. Now that I've ranted for 28 minutes, it's time to at least cover what cannot be denied. As Shawna Parsons tells you on Fox News, but it's all good. And on Memorial Day, Portlanders remembered those that died for this nation. People aren't going to give a damn about the U.S. troops the way things are going. And if you think it's an accident that all this information about torture and government-sponsored terrorist attacks around Iraq are coming out on CNN, if you think that's accidental, you got another thing coming. Yes, information is boiling from the underground because it can't be kept down any longer. It's like trying to keep a balloon underneath the water, trying to keep it because naturally in its natural state it floats and pops up out of the water to where you can see it. They're losing that ability to keep a lot of this information down. But I have never been convinced that the American people and our interests as a nation with sovereignty was ever considered as we went to war with Iraq. It was considered, though, how to make money. Private interest groups. Now we live in a world where Walmart has its own intelligence operation, which may or may not be spying on some of the top protesters against Walmart. Now, parts of that was admitted a few months ago. And then we reported to you 2 weeks ago out there spying on nuns. Now we hear about Blackwater operating incrementally, increasingly around this nation. This is a police state, and Blackwater is in Salem as well. This is your world today, ladies and gentlemen, and I am delivering it to you in a way that you will not hear on the rest of the mainstream news outlets. And today, my friends, I am proud to say that I stand on gold, because this moment is all I've got. And we don't know how many more shows we have to give this information to you. You have to live each day as if it was your last, and develop that killer instinct within you that strives to survive, that part of you, that cellular memory that cannot be dumbed down. No drug, no poison in the air, no level of propaganda that can control your insusceptible mind, your insusceptible consciousness. And in this path of self-discovery, you got to remember our thoughts deceive us based on what we think we know. The world is not just a little bit different than what we came into this planet thinking it was. It is nothing like we were taught it was. You have to move from thinking with your mind to knowing with your consciousness. And that includes the third level of solutions that I mentioned earlier in the program, and realizing in the larger scheme of things, this is all an illusion, including the outcome of the New World Order. Why am I passionate still as I regurgitate that information to you? Because I believe each person has a path, has a purpose, and we're playing those things out in different ways, manifesting our own reality to some degree in different ways. And I picked this, and for whatever reason, I don't know why I know all of this information, why it's so familiar to me. I just go with it. Because doing what we're doing today, being joined alongside with our brothers and sisters around the world, white, black, Mexican, Asian, black, Irish, European, English, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We're in and living within different political systems, but, but we're fighting for the same thing. Around the world, we're fighting for the same friggin' things. And we are, and this is so hard for people to realize, so unsustainable. These people pitching you the global warming pitches are not even coming close or within the ballpark of giving you a rational way of taking back your own sovereignty and sustainability, which I feel have always been linked. How do we move away from a globalized world to where we don't need China for anything? Or India? Or South America? I mean, we can trade, and I'm not saying that we become an isolationist country, but we live in Oregon. We live in a land of abundance, of intense abundance. And we import food containing poisonous food additives that were made in China. Does that sound like sanity to you? And every one of these problems, you know, my grandmother said to me last week, for everything negative you say, Alex, and I'm just going to hear a huge echo consciously from all of you, say something positive. Find out how you can reverse what I'm saying in your own world. That is how you can make use of this information. You hear about this piece of darkness coming at you. How can you reflect that or move that to the side? And in a way that a keto will use their opponent's energy against them by moving to the side and letting the problem collapse itself on the ground. You can use that philosophy in our discussion about the collapse of the economy. Let the economy collapse. It's going to collapse. The only way we can keep it afloat, according to the way the system, the matrix, is currently set up, because you have to look at the blueprint of what we have to work with. It's all about Wall Street, baby. The GDP, what we create, what we destroy, what we consume, what we buy. That in this planet is considered wealth. And that on this planet today, my friends, is absolute insanity. But they can sell it to you as if it's as American pie. In terms of Russia, which we've been talking about over the last couple months, about their missile defense system. Not so much Russia's, but the United States, that they want to establish in the former Soviet Republic, that is in Czechoslovakia, or the Czech Republic in Poland, The United States wants to set up a missile defense system, a joint system with Russia. Old news, because Russia said no. In response, as you see on the screen before you, they have claimed to have tested a missile that's actually capable of penetrating any defense shield erected by the United States, fueling fears of a new Cold War-style arms race. This is big, my friends. Now, these fears are warranted, I would say. Now, the U.S., NATO, many other countries, and Russia are taking giant steps back from the previous armed treaties. That means no limits, my friends, on the amount of weapons that they are going to create. And you know the weapons they create, they at some point in history use. And we don't even know all of the different intricate ways that China is going to be attacking other nations for resources that analysts predict is inevitable in 20, 25, 30, 35 years. We hear about all these countries possessing electromagnetic weapons, bioweapons, nuclear enrichment programs around the world, atomic bombs. We're all locked and loaded. It's one big, giant global gulag with a bunch of gangsters being ready to duke it out over who will command the bunker of whatever's left of the New World Order. We have dangerous characters that are involved in the situation that are just trying to survive, that are corrupt themselves by corrupt means that have positioned or maneuvered themselves into power. One such example is the Kremlin, another is North Korea, another could be argued the current president or the current leader of Iran. Just because we oppose what the United States is doing does not mean in any way, shape, or form that I support their opponents. That is part of the programming. It's the I Am American program that takes you off the path to truth. It's the I Am Iraqi program, the I Am Afghan program, the I Am Black program, the I Am White program, the I Am Hispanic program, the I Am Chinese program. Even to some degree, the I Am Human program is an illusion because in that regard, we forget the rest of the earth. The trees, the animals, the things that we need on this planet to coexist. When it comes to deciphering reality, it is like Russian dolls. Russian Deputy Prime Minister has said that the missiles are capable of overwhelming any existing or future missile defense systems. They say so in terms of defense and security, Russia can be calm. They don't have anything to worry about, according to them. The RS-24 rocket was fired from the northeastern region of the country and successfully hit its target 6,000 miles away. The Russian military confirmed. But on the topic of China, the growing superpower, they're modernizing their military, which will make it a more muscular player in world events. A U.S. Department defense spokesperson has said. The Pentagon says that Beijing remains preoccupied with military contingencies in the Taiwan Strait, but adds that the Chinese military is also improving its ability to win possible conflicts over resources or territories. China, in the meantime, and I find this just a little bit disturbing, just a wee bit, considering how they treat the Falun Gong. China has called for Western countries to put aside fears about the death penalty and sign extradition treaties. State media reported Monday as the Communist Party seeks the return of suspected corrupt officials and criminals who have fled overseas. Damn you, China! No participation with this country. Do you know how they treat their people? We don't need them, but we have become so greedy with our thumb up our fat ass. No offense to anyone who's fat. I mean fat in a metaphorical way. With our thumb up our ass and our Big Mac in our face, we forget where we came from. And these trinkets, these goodies that make our life so easy, apparently, are the very things that are killing us and disconnecting us from each other on this planet. And, of course, from other diverse members and countries on this planet. We should be trading and talking and having fun and laughing and dancing in a way that we should be doing with this technology, with other members and other people on this planet. One big human race without a new world order. I want to freely be able to travel. Do you think I feel that way today? Do you think I want to be scanned, looking at my body underneath my clothes, treating me like an animal, wondering if I'm on a no-fly list? Hell no! And that's not how I'm going to grow up. And that's not how I want to see my friends come up. And that's not the life I want to see you have. That is the importance of standing up for what you believe in a world where millions have their head in the sand. Who wants to be like that? What's cool about that? What's glamorous about being a slave? See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, as a crew member up there has indicated to me, is the mantra that we have now begun to worship as a false god. On the topic of North Korea, they're in the game too for control of the global turf. North Korea has test-fired several missiles towards the Sea of Japan. South Korea's defense ministry says launches appear to be part of a routine military exercise by the secretive communist state. Reports from Japan and South Korea say the tests involved a number of short-range anti-ship missiles. The U.S. envoy to North Korea played down the significance of the test, but added that Pyongyang should concentrate its efforts on nuclear disarmament. Remember this. If we are invaded by any country or attacked, North Korea, Russia, China, anyone steps their foot on this borders, we're attacking them. And that's a guarantee. Anyone that has any guns left is going to be fighting this enemy head on with whatever weapons they have, because we have to have a mindset that we are going to win, whether we think we can or not. And it's like that movie Red Dawn with Charlie Sheen and some of the other cats back in the 80s that were in all those films. You have to understand that in that context, it's okay for us in our nation to be insurgents. It's okay in that context for us to defend our country and snipe the enemy from behind trees, as we did during the Revolutionary War. Today, the Iraqis are doing the exact same thing. And we have Shahs that are coming up from behind the shadows that are saying, unite my brothers and sisters and fight the foreign enemy, for they, the occupation, are the very ones that are creating this violence and bombing our villages. And that is now public on CNN today. You get to have peace. You get to be sheltered from the brunt of the war, based on the police state that has been created to protect us from the blowback that is inevitably coming to haunt us. The things we could have never imagined in our worst nightmares are about to manifest. That's why I do what I do, and that's why I say what I say, because I've seen the future, and so have you. And in this hive mind that is naturally happening, we know we have to do something and flank the enemy from all angles using multiple solutions and like a virus infesting multiple political parties to make sure that we can save what is left of the republic. But remember this. As the republic dies, which it has, as the country collapses, this is about your survival, regardless of what happens to the world. Regardless of what happens to the world. Because regardless of what you believe, for us to survive, for us to move on, you have to think more about, what do I mean when I say you? And I don't just mean your physical body. I mean all of you, and that means all of your bodies. And in the grand scheme of things, this entire thing and its outcome is a part of the illusion. It is still important because it is a testimony. It is a commitment to the truth. It is a testimony, for one thing, to who you are and what you stand for. And that's going to manifest in different ways. We're not all the same. We did not come into this planet with the same experiences, with the same lifetimes, if you subscribe to that. We all have our own gift. We all have our own level of magic that we can bring as humans to this table. They use human alchemy to control our minds subconsciously. And on the dark side, that's where corporate logos come in. These similar images, the pyramid that never goes away. I have not even been talking about that stuff because it's so obvious. I've been just sticking with the news, much of which I've skipped for the night. But you've got to remember, if they are learning to manifest and create a police state control grid for you and your family, I think the time is now here. It has been here, but it's more urgent than ever for you to be involved in creating your own reality to combat what's already here. How you're going to react to these things, how you're going to care for one another. And I'm going to continue on that later on. But I do want to mention one thing, and it's been one of the top stories, though, of the week, and that's the World Bank. And a lot of you have been hearing about Wolfowitz leaving the World Bank. As for the buzz, considering the change of the guard, we have Robert Zoellick, who is now coming into the fold to head the World Bank. We, the United States, has controlled the World Bank for 60 years, deciding, of course, who was going to be at the head of the World Bank. This same guy, Robert Zoellick, is the guy who tried to equate resistance to corporate globalization, also known as the New World Order, with the terrorism of Al-Qaeda. He now takes over the World Bank following Paul Wolfowitz's evacuation. Now, 2 weeks after 9/11, in a speech at the Institute for International Economics, Zoellick insinuated that there were links between 9/11 terrorists and anti-globalization protesters. He says, and I quote, "In the wake of the shock of 9/11, many people will struggle to understand why terrorists hate the ideas America has championed around the world. It is inevitable that people will wonder if they are intellectual connections with others who have turned to violence to attack international finance, globalization, and the United States." And I read to you a couple months ago how the White House said that people believe that conspiracy theories are directly communicating, many of them, with members of Al-Qaeda. But moving on, we talked about the immigration bill last week. Here is an additional piece of information that was in that piece of legislation. No jobs for U.S. citizens without Homeland Security approval. U.S. citizens who apply for a job will need prior approval from the Department of Homeland Security under the terms of the immigration bill passed by the Senate last week. The ACLU has just pointed out that the Department of Homeland Security's employment eligibility verification system is plagued with error, and if the department makes a mistake in determining work eligibility, there will be virtually no way to challenge the error or recover lost wages due to the bill's prohibitions on judicial review. Again, that jurisdiction. Just put it in the paperwork. Just federalize it. We'll get to it maybe in 2 or 3 years. Just like the no-fly list, maybe we'll help you out if we make a mistake. It says even current employees will need to obtain eligibility approval from the Department of Homeland Security within 60 days of the Immigration Reform Act of 2006 becoming law. In the meantime, you've heard about the wiretaps. Guess who is helping Mexico fund their own wiretaps? It would be the U.S. government. Mexico's expanding its ability to tap telephone calls and email using money from the U.S. government. The expansion comes as President Felipe Calderon, who is suspected by many, including myself, of using vote fraud to force his way into office, is pushing to amend Mexico's constitution to allow officials to tap phones without a judge's approval in some cases. In another report, the G8 has taken place this week. The G8 has given the green light for a global biometric database. G8 Justice and Interior Ministers on Friday endorsed the setting up of the biometric database proposed by Interpol. Interpol Security General Ronald K. Noble views this database as a vital policing tool required to tackle the global problem of prison escapes, of terrorists and other dangerous criminals not being promptly and adequately reported to police worldwide. He noted that during the past 2 years alone, they've become aware of, Interpol that is, more than 500 prisoners escaping from 72 prisons across 43 countries worldwide. So they're seeking a total Orwellian, diabolical system to stop an extremely small percentage of people escaping from prisons. We're a world of billions of people, and they're concerned about just a few. They're concerned about just a few. In another report, we got the Bilderberg meeting going on this week. This weekend, actually, in Istanbul, Turkey, and the Texas governor, Rick Perry, is going to be in attendance. In other news, China is, of course, on schedule to catch up to the United States and join the front ranks of world economic power, being a superpower. But in a recent poll, that is little cause for concern for many Americans who are still living on borrowed time, even as Americans continue to buy Chinese goods at an astronomical rate. But the same poll showed there is generally as much distrust of the U.S. as there is of China to act responsibly in foreign affairs. So our reputation around the world is no longer trusted, which is bad for making friends in the future of this country. Some people would actually look to China before looking to us, and that's where Venezuela and Iran now stand, which disturbs me about both of these countries. And people look up to Venezuela. Again, back to supporting the opposition of President George W. Bush. He's no better. He's no better. People can debate all they want, but I know that even his country has a problem with relating to one another. When I see riot police, and I know CNN used this as propaganda, but how they used riot police to control the activists and the demonstrators that did not want to see the propaganda news network go down. Now, it was said by the government that this network had called for assassinations many times and had been a part of the coup that ousted Venezuela, the Venezuelan president, a couple of years earlier. But it still showed me that this same imbalance, the have and have-nots, exists there in a different way, on a different level, playing field of the matrix, that we may or may not understand, but it still exists nonetheless. Finishing up with our news for the evening, there's another report pertaining to the economy that says that the world growth is now being led by Europe and Japan, nothing new here, which is compensating for a U.S. slowdown. That comes from the Organization for Economic Development. Briefly, in other news, and we've talked about this as well, Google is learning how to literally figure out how humans think and predict their every move through these databases. They are planning to build the world's most powerful human database computer that will one day not only be able to log, but will be able to predict our every move. The world's most powerful database has announced plans to build it with a full backing of the U.S. government. In other news, there's more conversation about the fact that by 2015, the U.S. Department of Defense plans that 1/3 of our fighting strength will be composed of by robots. That's where your children, the monsters of tomorrow, as most of them are being programmed into, that is if you leave them in front of the TV. And now even studies are reporting that it's unsafe to leave children in front of the TV, at least until they're 3. But it's bad even if you're an adult. 1/3 of their fighting strength will be composed of robots. Who do you think are going to be manning those weapons of death? Professor Noel Sharkley, a robotics expert at the University of Sheffield, says, quote, "It's only a matter of time before we see similar police robots moving to the civilian world." With all that darkness for you to digest, I ask you to take my hand in fighting this corrupt system. Whether you fight it head on, prepare for what happens when this country collapses, or number 3, see this for what it is, an ultimate illusion, and find yourself in the process. Regardless, there is something on this program for all of you. And I do this for free, out of the goodness of my heart, and there are other ways to combat this system other than guns, other than violence, other than suicide, other than drugs, other than tapping out to other addictions. And I, like you, have to understand one thing in this fight, and that is this. You have to let go of all of your attachments and addictions to everything in this world. Your spouses, your children, your family, everything in the journey sometimes on some levels to find out who you are. In your own head, you have to remember one thing. Consciousness-wise, you came into this planet alone, and you are going to end alone. And I've been doing this show for 2 years, and I have nothing to show for it. I have nothing and no one. And now it makes me stronger because I realize this is who I am, and I'm not going to change for anybody because I'm proud of what I do. And there are people out there that don't understand everything on this program, and that's okay. Maybe they're not supposed to. When you feel an energy directing you somewhere in your life, run with it and go with it. In my life, I'm trying to look on the bright side and still trying to find out where this insane ride called my life is leading. But at least I can say, when I go to sleep at night, that I'm doing the right thing. And there is no guilt. And when there's guilt, there is sickness. And on the topic of sickness, on the topic of electromagnetic frequencies affecting our health, cell phones affecting our health, we have forgotten how to eat, even how to eat. Now, I'm going to take you out of the program tonight with a couple things that may or may not be on your current shopping list. And we are going to go through those very rapidly, Dawn and Emily. And when I mean rapidly, I mean right after the other. Superfoods are things that are also known as whole foods. Usually it's depicted or known as just the vegetable area. This kind of is encompassing a lot of foods that many of us don't eat in our lives because we're too busy, like a dog, chasing our tail, being poisoned by genetically modified food, which is our topic next week. One of the items you want to put on your shopping list is apples. And you definitely want to eat at least one per day. Next to that, avocados. And in avocados, related things to avocados includes asparagus, artichoke, extra virgin olive oil, and of course, extra fruits and vegetables like beans. Old beans, which are included, which is pinto beans, navy beans, great northern, and lima beans, chicken beans, and many, many more. And by the way, as I go through these, we are talking, and if you can access it, organic food. These foods have so many health benefits that I can spend a whole show on it. I'm running out of time, so I can't. But continuing on, blueberries are a great source of health. You could be in the blueberry kingdom. There are many other things: purple grapes, cranberries, boysenberries, raspberries, strawberries, currants, and blackberries. More things in the superfood category, and I'm also reading from the book Superfoods RX by Mr. Pratt. Broccoli is also in this family, which also includes Brussels sprouts, cabbage, kale, turnips, and cauliflower. Continuing on, dark chocolate. After that, as I said earlier, extra virgin olive oil. Garlic, of course, should be in our diet on a regular basis. And honey. There are a lot of things that honey can go on. Don't forget kiwi, and some sidecars to that are pineapple and guava. Next to that, oats. Getting a good dose of oatmeal every day is good to start the day, along with onions, oranges. Don, are you with us? Pumpkin, pomegranates, wild salmon, soy, spinach, tea, tomatoes, turkey, and walnuts. And I want to spend more time on those foods, much, much more time, and I'll try to get into that next week. But I want to let you know that there are things you can do to change what you put in your body that can change how you feel. Just like the information that I'm sharing with you today can guide you to a solution that you can be a part of tomorrow to create the world that you really want to create. That's the most important thing. So until next week, I'm Alex Ansary, reminding you, as always, I know we went through a lot, the path to the ultimate truth, at the very peak outside the matrix, still starts within. And with that, my friends, I'll see you next week. Good night.